ये तीनों पोत भारत के 3 महत्वपूर्ण संकल्पों के भी प्रतीक हैं। इनका निर्माण भारत में हुआ है, इनकी डिजाइन भारत में तैयार हुई है, इनके निर्माण में भारतीय उद्योगों की प्रतिभा लगी है। मेरी शक्ति की पहचान विश्व के बाजार बनने से नहीं है, मेरी शक्ति की सामर्थ्य की पहचान मेरी आत्मनिर्भरता पर है।
3 ships, 1 day, and a message to the world. While much of the world was celebrating International Yoga Day, India was quietly showcasing another kind of strength. Not soft power, hard power. On June 21st, Prime Minister Narendra Modi commissioned 3 new vessels into the Indian Navy: a stealth missile frigate, an anti-submarine warfare ship, and a deep-sea survey vessel. On paper, these are 3 naval platforms, but in reality, they represent something much bigger. A transformation that has been unfolding for over a decade. A transformation from being one of the world's largest arms importers to becoming a serious defense manufacturing power. And these 3 ships may be among the clearest symbols yet of that journey. Let's start with the ships themselves. The first is INS Dunagiri, a stealth-guided missile frigate designed to hunt enemy ships and strike targets at long range. But what makes Dunagiri particularly interesting is its weapon of choice, the BrahMos missile, the same supersonic missile system that became one of India's most talked about military assets after Operation Sindhu. Fast, precise, and increasingly in demand around the world. Then came INS Agre, an anti-submarine warfare vessel. Now, submarines are among the most dangerous weapons in modern warfare because they are difficult to detect and often operate silently beneath the surface. Agre is designed specifically to counter that threat. It can detect, track, and engage enemy submarines, even in shallow waters where submarine hunting is particularly challenging. And then there is INS Sanshodhak, the least glamorous of the 3, but perhaps one of the most strategically important. Sanshodhak is a hydrographic survey vessel. What is its job? To map the oceans, study seabeds, chart underwater terrain, and provide information that modern navies depend on before deploying ships, submarines, or any other underwater systems. As India's maritime footprint expands from the Arabian Sea to the wider Indian Ocean, vessels like Sanshodhak become critical force multipliers. So 3 ships, 3 different missions, but one common theme. All 3 were built in India. If you only look at the headlines, the story is simple. India inducted 3 more ships into its navy. But the real story is much larger. These ships are evidence of a strategic shift, a shift from buying military hardware to building military hardware. For decades, India depended heavily on imports. Aircraft came from abroad, submarines came from abroad, warships often relied on foreign designs and foreign systems. Even basic military equipment frequently required overseas suppliers. Now, that dependence comes with risks. Every crisis, every war, every geopolitical dispute raised the same question: would supplies continue or would politics interfere? The answer was obvious. India needed self-reliance, and nowhere is that transformation more visible than in the Indian Navy. Consider this: over the last decade, the Navy has commissioned 43 indigenously built vessels, not imported, built in India. Today, another 52 naval platforms are under construction. The investment already runs into billions of dollars and is only growing. This isn't an isolated program. It is part of a larger national strategy, one that began gathering momentum years ago and reached a symbolic milestone with the commissioning of India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant. And that journey is something Prime Minister Modi highlighted during the launch ceremony. According to the PM, the story of these three ships cannot be separated from the larger story of India's maritime rise.
जिस देश का समुद्री सामर्थ्य मजबूत होगा, उसका आर्थिक और रणनीतिक प्रभाव भी उतना ही मजबूत होगा। कुछ वर्ष पहले जब हमने आईएनएस विक्रांत को राष्ट्र को समर्पित किया गया था, तब भारत ने अपने समुद्री सामर्थ्य के नए अध्याय का उद्घोष किया था। विश्व भर के सामने हमारे सामर्थ्य का वो उद्घोष था।
INS Vikrant changed something psychologically. It proved that India could build one of the most complex military platforms in existence, an aircraft carrier. Since then, the momentum has only accelerated. Destroyers, frigates, service ships, submarines, anti-submarine warfare vessels, the list continues to grow. And increasingly, private companies are becoming part of that ecosystem. The numbers will tell you the story. India's defense production has now reached a record 1.78 lakh crore rupees, a dramatic increase over previous years. The private sector already contributes roughly a quarter of their output, and its role is expected to expand significantly. If this sounds familiar, it should, because India has already followed a similar path in another industry, mobile phones. A decade ago, India imported most of them. Then came the manufacturing push. Production expanded, exports exploded. Today, India exports tens of billions of dollars worth of smartphones. Defense appears to be following a similar trajectory. Only this industry, of course, carries far greater strategic implications because, unlike phones, defense equipment influences geopolitics. In the fiscal year 2026, defense exports were in the region of $4.5 billion. That may be a modest amount compared to the overall size of the global defense and arms industry, but do remember it represents a 55 times jump from defense exports 1 decade ago. The private sector already contributes 25% to domestic defense production. The numbers will inevitably increase. The world today is not becoming safer. It is becoming more fragmented as the world transits from being dominated by one superpower to a multipolar world. Defense equipment, defense production, defense exports will increasingly become a strategic advantage or disadvantage if you do not have them. This thrust on domestic defense production, as well as a calculated projection of exports to markets as diverse as Armenia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Egypt, France, and even the United States, clearly indicates one thing, that over the next 5 years or so, India will not just be very self-efficient, reliant in defense production, but will also be a major player in the global defense export sector. 3 ships were launched on a single day, but this story isn't really about those 3 ships. It is about a country that has decided it no longer wants to depend on others for the security. It is about a navy that is increasingly sailing on platforms built at home. And it is about India's attempt to turn defense manufacturing into a strategic advantage. This is Times Access, where global stories meet India's perspective. Click on the bell icon to subscribe because the next big global shift will have India at its center.